Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Today I want to show you guys some pro tips with edging, because I believe edging is going to make the difference between you and every other lawn service out there. And there's 1,000 other lawn services just on your street alone. If you don't believe me, go outside once in a while. You'll see them all. There's a ton of lawn services. Edging and weed eating, but especially edging, is going to set you apart. So a lot of people ask me in my comment section, how come I go back with the weed eater after I edge with the blade? Why don't I just edge with the weed eater? Well, the blade does a better job than the weed eater, I think, because it gets down, it gets the dirt real good. It gives you a nice, clean looking crack. I find it to be a little bit faster. It's more efficient. I think it's safer. It slings less. And you can go straight from doing the driveway in the grass and go right up into a rock bed. You can bury the edger down deep into the rock, low power, and the blade will cut the grass and will cut the roots that's below the surface, where a weed eater isn't going to get below the surface unless you're at higher RPMs. And if you're doing that, then you're risking sending rocks through windows. So edging with a blade, in my opinion, and I got 3 decades of this under my belt, is far more efficient. It does a better job than weed eating, edging with a weed eater. Also, I've never had a customer say, "Oh good, you edge with a weed eater," but I've gotten plenty of customers to say, "Oh good, you edge with an edger." If you're a diehard, I edge only with a weed eater and edging with a, then click out. Bye. See you later. This isn't for you. This is for people that are interested in getting to the next level. Edging with an edger is next level. It makes a huge difference. Why do I go back over it with the weed eater? Because that's how important edging is. So I edge it with the blade, but then if it's a yard that's overgrown, hasn't been done in a while, if there's any factors like that, then I go back with the weed eater, and where this is the grass blade, you know, and this is the edge of the concrete, I'll come back with the weed eater at an angle and just make sure that there's no sidewalk cracks that have a little bit. There's nothing, didn't miss a thing, you know. I think that's very important. It only takes 2 seconds. Next level, guys. That's what sets you apart. I cannot stress that enough. But let's talk about the edger blade. This edger blade that I use is a very common size, so let me give you the stats on it. It's 7 3/4 long, it's 2 across, and it's got a 1-inch hole. Okay, that's your opening right there. These are very common. Steel, Echo, Husqvarna, the cheap crap that you get at the big box stores, like the little edger attachments for like $60 or $70, they all use this. I've used that cheap crap when I got started. Nothing wrong with it. Just get prepared to buy better as your business gets bigger, so you're not left stranded with broken equipment. They don't last too long, but it'll get you going. But that cheap stuff, all the way up to the most expensive steel, Echo, Red Max, any of the high dollar edgers, they all use this size blade. All right, the 1-inch hole, 7 3/4 by 2. I link to the ones that I use. I use them every day. I don't get any money by the company I link to. It's just a company off of Amazon. I don't know who they are, but I bring them a hell of a lot of business. I link to them in my video description. So if you're on an iPhone or an iPad or an Android, turn your phone from this way back up this way and look to the bottom right of your video, and there's a little black triangle. Hit it, and that opens your description. You'll find all the links to all the items I use every day in my business, including these edger blades. I buy in bulk, and there they are right there for you to get. They're like USA blade or something like that. Really good blade, and they're thick too. They do a nice job of cleaning up the edges. So that's the blade that I use. Now let's talk about edging. I get a lot of questions about the wheel, and they say that when they're running on the wheel, it kind of drifts them. They have a really hard time. So what I wanted to show you guys, I don't run on the wheel. Whether I have a brand new blade, half-used blade, or old blade, the wheel for me is all the way up. All the way up. I don't run on the wheel. This wheel is still like the day I bought it, brand new. The only thing this wheel is good for is added protection for my leg, because it helps stop some of the crap from getting kicked back when you're edging, because the edger blade goes this way. So as it's going this way and it's bringing stuff back, the shield, this little rubber thing, and this wheel makes a huge difference for keeping you clean and safe and less kickback to any windows or anything that might be behind you. So on some models, I can take this wheel off and it doesn't affect me. On this model, I took the wheel off because why have the wheel if I'm never going to use it? But I took the wheel off and I put it right back on in about 2 feet of edging because it made a huge difference with collecting the dirt, keeping it off of me. So I don't run on the wheel. I hold my machine up, but with that comes wear. So this doesn't affect the inside or anything like that, but as the blade gets small and you're holding this edger up, you're going to be dragging this here and there. That's going to happen, all right? Especially at the end of a 9 or 10 yard day and you're edging 2 or 3 at one time. By the time you're done, your arms are fried from holding this thing up. This is pretty heavy. This is a steel combi. But regardless of the model, regardless of the brand, I never run the wheel. I never do. All right, you're going to find that nice sweet spot of where you hold it, and I'll show you that in a second, and you're going to float the blade right along. And it runs this way, which means it's almost self-propelled. So as you're edging, it's almost self-propelled and pulling you along as you go. All right, so the wheel is good if you got noodle arms and you can't hold this up, but the wheel is going to cause you to drift. The wheel's going to start driving the edger out of the crack, and it's going to irritate you, and then you're going to leave me comments like, hey Dan, how come I can't edge like you? That's because you're on the wheel. In time, build up your strength and get off the wheel. Get the wheel up, all right? Also, if you have the wheel all the way down with a brand new blade, then the 4th or 5th time that you do your yard, or the 4th or 5th or 6th yard that you do, the blade's going to look like this. And now the blade's not even really going in the crack anymore. So you'll have to loosen up the bolt and bring your wheel up on the slide right here. Hopefully that's showing for you guys. And get the blade back down to the ground. But eventually, or if you're a pro guy and you're trying to do this for a living or for a side hustle, and you're going to be doing a few yards a day and you want to set yourself apart, get that wheel out of your way, not necessarily take it off, but get that blade deep. All right, get that blade nice and deep. You see where the black is worn off. So we're going pretty deep into the crack below the concrete. All right, makes a huge difference. Very difficult to do that with weed eater line. You got to keep the RPMs up and really cut it. You can do it so much faster with an edger blade, just so much faster. And like I said, it's safer. I've been doing this for 3 decades. You'll never be able to convince me otherwise because I do it both. And I know the edger is far more efficient, it's far more safer, it just does a better job, and the customers like it better. They like to see that extra step. And it does set you apart. So let me show you guys real quick some positions on holding the edger. What I do, for me, now most people hold it this way. I don't know if you're going to try to edge this way and walk on the grass or something. If you do, good luck. But most people will edge this way, and what I do is I put my elbow right here on the engine. That locks my edger pretty much where I want it, and then I move it around. So a brand new blade, I might be up here. And holding it up just above the surface of the concrete. But as the blade wears down, watch my elbow and watch the head. The machine starts to come up my arm, and I get it lower. So I'm not doing this. I'm not jacking my body around and wearing myself out and losing control. I'm like this to start, brand new blade, and as the blade gets smaller, then I just bring it down like this until I have a really small blade and I'm pretty much at the gas tank. And so I'll just hold it like this and edge along, and that's when you hear that's when you start wearing down your gearbox. I can get about 20 to 22 yards out of an edger blade. Now the difference is that's yards that I've been servicing regularly. I can piss through an edger blade in 2 yards if they're cleanups. Alright, so there's a guy down the street, I'm trying to get his yard, I'm trying to edge it for free. I need to catch him and ask him if he'll let me edge his yard for free, because it's the worst edge job I've ever seen in my life. And if I can get it and video it, you guys will love it. I'll do it for free. It's the worst I've ever seen. It's the worst I've ever done. It's incredible. So that's how I hold it. All right. Now the next thing is your placement on this right here. If you're like this, you're straight. Okay. If you hold it like this, then you get that little bit of an angle. And what that does is, as you're edging along, it kind of gives the yard a little bit more of an ability to have an angle edge. Some people like that. If you remember, I mean, they still sell them, but back in the old days, they used to have those, you know, we used to use those push edgers. And those push edgers had an up and down. They also had a lever, though, that you can angle the blade quite a bit. And that angled blade kind of gives the yard, gives the edge an opportunity to have a little bit of a taper as it's approaching the concrete. Over here, it'd have a little taper. What that does is that helps get like any of the grass hairs that you might miss. Now when I edge straight. And then what I do is I go back with the weed eater, because I want mine to be a perfect box with a black crack. And what I do is I go back with the weed eater to make sure there are no little hairs. And if there are, I'll take a second to clean those up. So you got your placement like this, new blade, and then I just work it down my arm to bring the head down for an old blade. The wheel never touches the ground. All right, and then you got your hand right here. Muscle memory, you'll get used to just grabbing it at the same spot every time. You'll always grab this edger at the same spot every time, in time, no matter what. I mean, I could be blindfolded looking the other way. I am gonna grab this at the same spot every time. Muscle memory. And that's gonna have your edger straight, perfectly straight, or like this. Now you can also, much like I said with a weed eater, you can loosen these handles up. And if this is where you're comfortable, if you like to have an angle right here, if you like to feel something a little bit, you know, you don't want to be straight like this, that doesn't feel comfortable to you, or maybe this does feel comfortable to you. But you see how it brings my edger blade this way? So then what I would do is I would loosen up these handles, and I would bring the handle this way, tighten it, so then when I grab it where I want to grab it, now the head is this way. So don't be afraid to adjust your handle left or right to bring the edger blade left or right. If you want, have that little bit of an angle this way, and you get that taper, that little bit of a tapered look, which people really like. I just go straight, pretty much like this. Sometimes I'm even a little bit this way, because to me, the most important thing that I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give them a nice clean crack, really good separation between the grass and the concrete. And if something doesn't look perfect when I'm weed eating, I'll touch it up. It only takes a second. But like I said, that's next level. That's what sets you apart. That's when you look at my yards and you could say, damn, Dan, you could turn a yard of weeds into a masterpiece. That's edging and weed eating, because anybody can mow, but the edging and weed eating is what's next level, and that's what gets you noticed. So that's how I edge. All right, guys, muscle memory and using your elbow. So the next thing is we'll just go ahead and fire it up and throw this thing in the crack and see what we can do. I'm going to start off, I've already been edging some, but we're going to go ahead and edge Carolyn and Save a Lawn, Save a Life. Then I'm going to go across the street, but I'll edge these two on video just to show you some different styles. When it comes to edging a grass to a plant bed, this is one of the examples with rocks, where what I do is I'll bury this down deep. I will hold this down and drag the head of the edger down to help protect the blade from kicking up rocks. I don't want it to kick up rocks everywhere. So I'm going to run along, but what I'm also doing is I'm giving the blade an opportunity to go about 1.5 to 2 inches into the dirt. As you see right here, if we're dragging right here, look at, we got a good inch and a half of blade going down below the dirt, which gets the roots that are running, that a weed eater, when you edge beds, doesn't get. So when you're always having a problem with weeds and runners in the grass beds, One reason is because your weed eater's not getting them. And if you want to get them, then you need to have 95 thousandths or even thicker line at a high RPM to try to cut a groove. And you're risking breaking windows, and you're just wasting your weed eater line. You're not doing it. I can do this edge with an edger blade, and I'm not picking on anybody. I'm just trying to explain to you safety, efficiency, and just getting it done right. So you don't have to come back and hand pick weeds out of beds. You don't have grass runners. It cuts down on spraying, cuts down on grinding weeds in the beds, cuts down on slinging rocks. So watch how I do this bed right here, and you can understand. You'll be able to understand right off the bat why I edge with an edger, and this is how I edge beds. And this will be for this type of bed, or the round beds that are in his yard over there. When you see me go around that sago palm, I'm going to edge it with the edger blade. If I were to edge it with the weed eater whip is going to hit the sago palm fronds. Now, they could stand to be trimmed, but some people don't like them trimmed. Some people like full sagos. They like full plants. And if you're always edging with a weed eater and you don't know how to edge with an edger, you're not going to be able to whip up a circle around a plant without tearing up the bush. Like I said, I got 3 decades of doing this. You can come up with all the excuses you want. I've been there, done that. And this is what I've settled on. And you're watching this video for a reason. And so where the rocks got a little bit thick right here, very low RPM, keep the machine moving, keeps the blade spinning, nothing really kicked up. If it did, it went a little bit this way. Not a big deal, not a big problem. Controlled it, but I got that edger blade down deep, so it got all the runners. And that's what makes a big difference. So let's go ahead and continue edging. Showing you how when it's supported like this, you have positive control. That's why I was doing it one-handed. And then you have your hand up here where you can adjust the angle of the dangle. is a different challenge. We have the black edging that's buried in the yard, down deep. You might be able to see it, hopefully. So what I do is I come along and I edge the grass on this side of the piping, the black edging. You know, it's got that like pipe on top, and then it's got the black that goes down. So I run my edger blade right along here just to make a nice clean appearance. Do I have to do that? No, but the grass is so much higher than the black edging that if I just weed eated it, you'd still have the hairs hiding the edging. Now, I could also just hit it with the weed eater since there is the black pipe to run the string along, but the edger's in my hand, and it's again it's a good way to make sure that no roots are going down and trying to go around and underneath and getting into this bed. I rarely ever spray this bed for weeds, and there's very minimal in here, and that's attributed to the edging. And so when you think about the blade every 2 weeks coming along and edging along with Carolyn's yard, stopping, you know, the grass runners from growing in, this edging is a perfect example as to why you want to use an edger blade to edge your bed. This black edging is an edger blade 24/7. There's a constant barrier going down. Now this might be a little bit deeper. It's usually, that black edging is usually a good 3 or 4 inches going down. So even the edger blade's not going to get as low as this black edging, but you see the theory behind it now, and I mean the proof is in the pudding. If you look at beds that aren't edged regularly, there's runners growing in them. You look at beds that are edged regularly, there might be weeds, but it's not grass runners growing in them. So food for thought. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll edge this the same way as I edge Carolyn's flower beds. I'll set you guys up out here, and I'm just going to demonstrate speed and efficiency with an edger. I don't care who you are or what you say, you are not going to edge with a weed eater as efficiently and as effectively as what I just demonstrated with an edger blade. That was real time, not sped up, nothing, and these are perfect edges. And they don't need to be touched up with a weed eater, but I will look anyways when the weed eater's in my hand. One final step. So here's the sago palm I was talking about. And if you try weed eating, edging this, you're going to tear up these low-hanging branches. Now they're already browning and looking kind of chewed on, but if you sit there and keep doing that with your weed eater, you're going to destroy them. Edging it with an edger avoids all that. Stops the runners from growing underneath. Alright guys, so this finishes up my little pro tip edging informational video for you guys. I'm going to go ahead and just mow and weed eat and get these finished up, and I'll show you the finished product. So I'm not going to touch the edges again, but I got the kids inside, so I'm not going to be filming too much more. So, but I'll show you guys the finished product and how good it looks, and I'll see you guys on the next one. So I got my 4 yards done, and you see, you know, we're at the end of March. The yards aren't quite in yet. They're getting nice and green. They're greening up, but you know, nice crisp edges. Looking down that sidewalk, nice shadow where the crack is. Nice thick edges makes a big difference. There's number 2, mine. Number 3, Carolyn. And number 4, Save a Lawn, Save a Life. And that's where I get my truck from. So it's really important, guys. Have them yards looking really nice with good crispy edges. Nice weed eating. Nice and level. Don't wring it down low. I'll do a weed eating video for you guys probably next week. Show you guys some tips to weed eating. But appreciate you guys hanging out with me today. Wash your hands. Stay safe. I'll see you later.